Now that you've found your co-founder and split up the equity amongst the two of you, it's time to make some progress. At the very early stage, what is the ideal team size? When you get started, the ideal size of a team is 2 people, 2 co-founders. Also at this stage, I see a lot of startups give me a business card where it says co-founder and CEO, and the other founder will give me a business card that says co-founder and CTO, or sometimes co-founder and co-CEO. At this stage, I highly recommend that you don't bother with that. If you must make business cards, and like me, if you live in Asia, by all means, they are necessary no matter what stage you're at, don't put a title on your business card. If you must put a title on your business card, just put co-founder. Or, as Eric Ries, the author of the influential book The Lean Startup, suggests, your title is just entrepreneur. Leave it there. That's because remember, we're not building a small version of a big company. At this stage, what we need to do is validate our idea and validate our market before we even begin to think of building a bigger company. In addition, a team size of 2 will be very attractive to an accelerator program or an early stage investor. Once you explore some of those options and you start to make some traction, you probably will want to start ramping up on the technical team. This is mostly to build your MVP, or your minimum viable product. My suggestion here is to hire very slowly. That first hire after the first 2 or 3 co-founders is very critical. It is okay to use consultants, but within reasons. You don't want to outsource core critical functions. You can outsource some things like UX design if you don't have that design expertise on staff. But I would not outsource the coding of key algorithms in your back-end database structure. As you're ready to get your MVP out the door, now you should start ramping up on the business team. Again, you want to hire slowly here. And in my opinion, it is not okay to use consultants. These are the people that are going to be leading your team to the next level. These are the people that are going to be going out and presenting the MVP to the customers or the potential customers and soliciting the feedback. Their level of engagement is critical in your success. Now that your startup is growing a little bit and you're ready to hire maybe your first employee, how do you attract the right team members? Believe it or not, as much as we like to say it, a lot of people out there are still motivated by money. That's okay. However, you have a problem. You have no money. You're an early stage startup. What do you do? The most common thing that an early stage startup will do is offer some equity in exchange for free work or for lower wages. A lot of people will be motivated by this, and depending on their economic and social situation, they'll be able to commit or not. Another way to attract some team members is to find passionate people around the problem you are solving. So you need a business development or marketing person, and your domain is in solving online payments. Find someone who's very passionate about changing the world and changing online payments. As you start to hire these early employees, you're going to have to offer them equity or stock options. This will dilute the co-founders. What that means is that will actually reduce the percentage of ownership in the company of the co-founders. We'll talk more about dilution in a future module. For now, how do you decide how much equity to give up to your first and early employees? Fred Wilson, a very influential venture capitalist who writes a blog, avc.com, says, early employee equity is more of an art than it is a science. I happen to agree with that advice, having been through this experience many times, sometimes with very positive and sometimes with very negative results. Fred Wilson suggests that you look at the following factors. What is the candidate's domain expertise? What are their connections? Can they recommend more people like them, more people willing to take a risk on an early stage investment? Or if they're a rockstar PHP developer, do they know other rockstar PHP developers, or rockstar UX designers, or rockstar database developers? What's their experience with related ventures? Have they worked at an early stage startup before? Do they know how it works? Or do they get antsy the first time you need to pivot or hit some type of strategic bottleneck? Of course, what is the ability to make a significant contribution? At this early stage, if you only have 4 employees and you're hiring your fifth, that is 20% of your company. Will they be able to pull their own weight? Also, how replaceable is this employee? There are lots of people out there who say they can do the same thing. And then, of course, whether it's a part-time or a full-time, doing something on the side is a lot less valuable. I've seen a number of startups make the mistake of engaging with an early stage employee that also had a full-time job. The level of engagement just wasn't the same. The amount of equity to give to your early stage employees is a difficult decision to make. David Crow, an influential blogger and consultant, has tried to tackle this problem in a blog post, which I've listed on the slide. He says as you bring in experienced people, the ranges of equity are as follows. If you're bringing in a CEO, you should give that CEO between 5 and 10% of equity in the company. It's pretty uncommon to bring in a CEO at a very early stage, so this is something that's usually done after a round of investment. Bringing an experienced COO on board will probably give up between 2 and 5% of the company. Same with an experienced vice president, 1 to 2%. Bringing on a board member will probably cost you about 1% of equity as well. A director, such as a director of marketing or a director of IT, anywhere between 0.4 and 1.25%. Lead engineer, anywhere from half to 1%. And a developer that has 5+ years of experience, anywhere between 0.33 and 0.66. And a manager or a junior engineer, anywhere between 0.2 and 0.33. This is a percentage of equity, not a number of shares. The number of shares is not important. The percentage of the outstanding shares or the percentage of total ownership is, and that's what these numbers represent. Again, these numbers are just guidelines. The actual numbers are up to you and your co-founders. In addition, you have to also remember that these guidelines are for the very early stages of your company. Maybe only the first year or so of your existence, depending on how much progress you have made. As your company grows, these numbers get smaller and smaller. The percentage of ownership is reflected about the percentage of risk or the level of risk that the candidate or the person is bringing to the company. For example, if your company just received $20 million of venture investment and is headed towards an IPO in 2 years, you're not going to be paying a vice president 1 to 2% of the equity. This is for the very early stage, before you received your financing or right after you receive some financing, when you're just bringing customers on board. As with everything else in this business, your mileage will vary.